The story begins in Carpia, a peaceful kingdom in a world inhabited by dragons and knights, ruled by King Augustin. Next, we meet young Princess Louisa, who was riding through the kingdom on her new horse. The princess returns to the castle and is quickly reprimanded by her mother. Like all princesses, Louisa also has her obligations, to marry and have children by the age of 18. Her mother, Queen Remini, makes a point of reminding her daughter of her responsibilities as a princess and heir to the throne. Louisa explains that all her suitors are boring and that there are better things to do in life. This provokes a conflict between the two. King Augustine does not think the same way, as he sees his daughter as a prince and not a princess, fulfilling all her wishes. Irritated, Remini asks her husband if marrying and having children is so bad. The king happily responds that some marriages have exceptions. This answer satisfies the queen. The family enjoys the king's response, but at that moment they begin to feel strong tremors. Louisa, scared, wonders what is happening. Outside the castle, everything is chaos. People are running, trying to protect themselves. The royal family runs to see what is happening and discovers that there are injured people everywhere. Counselor Paxian appears and asks if everyone is okay. The king affirms yes and asks Paxian to send soldiers to the village to help the injured. Louisa offers to help and asks if she can go. However, this creates a new conflict with her mother, who wants her to behave like a princess and not a soldier. But Augustine thinks it's a good idea. He reassures his wife and says it is a good way to bring his heir closer and prepare her to govern her subjects. The princess helps a woman, but she quickly gets up scared, looking at the sky. Louisa and the rest of the people also look at the sky and discover that there is a huge fire dragon preparing to launch an attack on the city. On the other hand, the queen is very concerned for her daughter, and Augustine asks her to hide. The king does not understand, as they have lived for years in peace with the dragons and does not comprehend the reason for the attack. While everyone runs, Louisa watches that monstrous creature flying in the sky. A girl who was trying to escape stumbles, and this catches the princess's attention, who quickly goes to rescue the young girl. She swiftly puts the girl on her back and starts to run. The frightened little girl begins to hit the princess's back, and when Louisa turns around, she discovers that the dragon is already very close to them and soon begins to burn all the villagers. Luckily, both manage to hide under a cart and are temporarily safe. The king orders Paxian to send all available men to rescue his daughter. The fire dragon continues its assault, burning everything and everyone incessantly. People run trying to protect themselves, but some end up dying burned. Paxian informs the king that they were not prepared for this devastating attack. Louisa realizes that that location is no longer safe and runs to protect herself. The soldiers are already ready to attack that creature, and Augustine watches from afar the destruction caused in the kingdom by the beast. Paxian, upon realizing that the dragon directed its attack towards them, quickly requests the king to seek shelter in the castle. Augustine refuses and prepares to fight alongside his men. The enormous fire dragon then approaches, and the archers position themselves to shoot under Paxian's command. The man orders them to only fire when the creature is very close, aiming exclusively at its head. Thus, several arrows hit the being, which quickly changes its trajectory and decides to flee. The princess manages to return safely to the castle and asks her maid to locate the young girl's parents. Gathered together, the king questions Paxian about the dragon's attack after 2 decades of peace, but he has no answers. Augustine demands they find out soon, as the dragon will not give up easily. Louisa observes that that day was just the beginning, with the fire dragon returning to feed and devastate the kingdom. After 3 months of attacks, the kingdom is almost ruined, and the king feels powerless. The princess warns her father that they need to act, as people are turning against each other amid the hunger. The counselor interrupts her, stating that there are more important issues for her to worry about. Louisa tries to contest and asks what could be more relevant than saving her own people from misery, and this time her father interrupts her, warning that it is enough. The queen takes the young girl out of the hall, and Louisa tries to argue, but her mother emphasizes the need to treat Paxian with respect, as he is still her father's counselor. Rimini tells her daughter to go to her room and leaves the place. As soon as her mother leaves, Louisa overhears her father's conversation. The counselor informs that King Quiloc desires an audience with Augustine. offering the doors of his kingdom in exchange for their surrender. Augustin finds it absurd and wonders why the dragon does not attack his kingdom, suspecting that Quiloc has control over the creature. Paxian suggests accepting the offer, as options are running out, and Louisa hears everything with disbelief. In King Quiloc's castle, a soldier informs that several people from the kingdom of Carpia are outside asking to enter, and questions if he can allow them in. Quiloc, furious, refuses. The soldier tries to argue, but the king states that those people are not his responsibility. He declares that as long as King Augustin does not surrender to his kingdom, the people of Carpia will suffer the consequences. Quiloc orders the soldier to send more men to protect the Draken. We discover that this magical object serves to protect his kingdom from dragon attacks. Back in Carpia, Louisa hears King Augustine considering bringing Alador back, the only one who killed a dragon. Paxian rejects the idea, as Alador is no longer a knight and was banished by Quiloc. Welcoming him would violate an important pact. Augustine acknowledges the seriousness of the situation, but argues that they have no other choice. Paxian disagrees, but Louisa is interrupted when her mother appears and reprimands her. In her room, Louisa asks about Alador, insisting they need to find him. The queen asks her to stay away, but Louisa counters that there is still hope if they find the knight. Remini recalls that Alador defeated an ice dragon for King Quiloc I, and when he died, his son Quiloc II took the throne, accusing Alador of conspiracy, which resulted in his punishment. Louisa insists she does not believe Quiloc's words, but her mother ends the conversation and wishes her daughter good night. During the night, Louisa prepares to leave, and her maid asks where she is going at this hour. The princess replies that she will the Isma forest in search of the mentioned knight. The maid warns that that place is dangerous, but Louisa is undeterred and states that she knows how to protect herself. She declares that if she were Alador, that is where she would hide, and vows that she will find him. The princess then begins her journey, riding for days until she finally arrives at the feared Isma forest. As she walks through the forest, she feels she is being watched, and suddenly is surprised by a man. Louisa introduces herself as the Princess of Carpia, but the man laughs, surprised by her boyish appearance. When she mentions she is looking for Alador, he becomes cautious, warning that that place is not safe. He says he knows the knight and urges her to hurry and leave. Excited by the possibility, Louisa rushes, but soon they are surrounded by the tree folk. The man urges her to be silent, but admits that it will probably not help and that they will likely be killed, drawing his sword. He is surprised to see Louisa pull out a sword, but is disappointed to realize it is only a dagger. When the tree folk attack, the two defend themselves but end up cornered. Suddenly, knives are thrown, taking down the attackers. A young warrior appears and asks who the woman is. Louisa introduces herself again, and the warrior, before responding, asks for gratitude for saving their lives. The princess is blindfolded and taken to the warrior's shelter, where she continues to insistently ask about Alador's location. The young warrior questions why the king would send his daughter as a messenger, and Louisa replies that she volunteered. He reveals that he does not trust her, and when asked, clarifies that it is not because she is a woman, but because the king has only one heir, and would not risk his daughter. Louisa mentions the dragon that terrorizes the kingdom, and Quiloc's proposal that involves handing over Carpia. The men become alarmed and assert that they should not have so much power. Louisa explains that she needs to find Alador, the only one capable of defeating a dragon, and mentions that her father plans to restore his knight title. The young man says he cannot accept that, revealing that Alador is already dead, which Louisa does not believe. He tells her that Alador was his father and suggests she spend the night there, promising he will return to the castle the next day. Upon waking, Louisa hears the men talking and discovers that the elder's name is Sangumel, and the young warrior is Gabriel, Alador's son. Gabriel says they will not get involved in the fight and shares that his father was betrayed the last time he tried to help a kingdom. Sangumel advises Gabriel not to let that affect his view of King Augustine, who is just. The next day, Louisa wakes up thinking she has been abandoned, but soon finds Sangumel. She asks again why Quiloc expelled Alador from the kingdom, and he suggests she ask Gabriel, who is outside. Louisa sees a collection of weapons and comments that Gabriel can kill a dragon like his father. Gabriel appears and says he will accompany her, although it was not his idea. Sanjamel promises to show something and throws an object that explodes upon hitting the ground, impressing the youths. Sanjamel asserts that this could destroy a mountain, and Gabriel comments that he knows what he is thinking, reaffirming that his decision remains the same. In the kingdom of Carpia, Augustin meets with King Quiloc, who states that his proposal was influenced by the relationship with Augustin's deceased father. Augustin confronts Quiloc, claiming that what he is doing is pure extortion and that everyone is aware of it. Quiloc replies that he can describe his offer as he wishes, but he is the only person capable of saving his people, warning that Augustin has only 2 days to make a decision. The trio pauses on their way to the castle, and Louisa continues insisting that Gabriel help them face the dragon. The young man, however, informs her that he does not fight dragons or defend kingdoms or any other cause. Louisa mentions that her father is a kind man, willing to abdicate the throne to help his people, which speaks volumes about his character. Gabriel responds that this is not his problem. Louisa then talks about a great reward, and upon hearing this, Sanjamel says that money would be very useful, leading Gabriel to eventually agree. Soon, they reach the kingdom, and Gabriel observes the destruction caused by the dragon, while the villagers watch them, intrigued about who those men with the princess are. Augustine is furious about the promise made by his daughter in his name, stating that this could have serious consequences. He does not want to meet them and tells Louisa to send them away. She tries to argue, but he is so furious that he orders her out. This time, the queen supports her daughter and asks the king to reconsider and at least try to talk to the men. Paxian approaches and says that this is ridiculous, stating that Gabriel is not a dragon slayer, but the son of a former bandit. Augustin observes that they need to consider all options, and Paxian states that although Quiloc is unbearable, he is the only chance to save the kingdom. The king then receives the 2 men and declares that his daughter made a promise without his permission. Gabriel responds that he already knew she was a liar, but Augustine questions whether the young man can truly fulfill what his daughter said and kill a dragon. Gabriel asserts that it was his father who killed a dragon, not him, but the king insists that he did not answer the question. At that moment, the bells begin to ring, and everyone in the room changes their expressions. The fire dragon appears again and initiates another attack, causing more deaths. Upon seeing the destruction, the king orders Paxian to take action. The counselor tries to convince Gabriel to kill the dragon, but, due to the treatment he received earlier, the young man, enraged, refuses. The king asks if he can end the beast, and Gabriel states that it does not matter anymore. Augustine emphasizes that this is crucial for the people out there, and for him as well, and warns that if the young man can kill the dragon, he will have to honor the promise made by his daughter. Paxian tries to interrupt, but this time the king asks him to be silent, and Gabriel ends up accepting the king's request. He and Sanjamel soon prepare to face the creature and begin to move through the city. Gabriel adjusts his crossbow to shoot at the dragon, and when the creature approaches, he fires an arrow that Sanjamel modified, which turns to ice upon hitting the dragon. Fortunately, he hits the monster in the head. Desperate, the dragon flies through the sky until deciding to flee, and the duo celebrates their victory. While the royal family observes from afar, amazed, Augustine informs Louisa that he will talk to the 2, while Paxian shows discontent. Sanjamel asserts that it is impossible for any man to defeat the dragon, but Louisa disagrees, reminding him that they managed to drive it away before. Gabriel agrees that killing the dragon is an impossible task, given its history. Louisa questions why Quiloc's kingdom seems so protected, and Sanjamel explains that a dragon symbolizes evil and destroys everything, except other dragons. He comments on an object called Dracon, explaining that it is a dragon's egg located between the creature's eyes and that perhaps Quiloc knows this, using it to protect himself from attacks. Gabriel reveals that his father ensured this protection by killing the ice dragon and capturing the sphere for King Quiloc I. Sanjamel, in a recording, explains that all dragons are born female and carry another dragon inside them throughout their lives. When they die, they release these creatures, beginning a new cycle of destruction. When Louisa asks how to defeat the dragon, Sanjamel replies that it is impossible, as only another dragon can do so. Paxian warns the king and queen about the men, calling Gabriel a liar and citing Alador's betrayal, who fled after planning to overthrow Quiloc's government. Louisa tries to warn Gabriel about the dangers, but he ignores her and leaves. The plan is for Gabriel to steal Quiloc's sphere, while Saint-Jamel searches for an ice dragon. Louisa insists on going with Gabriel, who reluctantly agrees, asking her to be careful. Upon arriving at the castle, Gabriel asks Louisa to wait while he looks for the sphere, breaking into the castle where he neutralizes the first guard and defeats the second. Meanwhile, Saint-Jamel investigates the place where Alador killed the ice dragon, hoping to find a new one. Gabriel advances through the tower, surprises the guards, and quickly neutralizes them. He manages to grab the Draken, but a guard appears and demands that he return the object and surrender. Louisa, watching from a distance, is surrounded by more guards and Paxian, who says she does not command there. Gabriel initiates a confrontation and easily defeats 3 guards, but one guard reveals that he knows he is Alador's son, claiming he cannot let him go and ordering an attack. Gabriel knocks down the guard, and noticing more guards approaching, decides to use an invention from Saint-Jamel to escape. Meanwhile, Louisa asks Paxian the reason for his betrayal. He reveals that Augustine is a weak king who governs under laws, and that he awakened the fire dragon to facilitate the conquest of Carpia. Louisa calls him a murderer, and he replies that he acts for a noble cause. Paxian orders the guards to kill the princess before Gabriel arrives in time to save Louisa, killing one guard while she manages to defeat the other. When she asks what happened, the princess explains that the counselor betrayed her father. They need to quickly warn her father, so Gabriel uses a signal flare to notify Saint-Jamel that he has completed his mission. Upon seeing the signal, Saint-Jamel is delighted and continues his process to awaken the dragon. Saint-Jamel finally manages to open a hole in the ice, waking the sleeping ice dragon. Gabriel decides to use fire on the dragon's egg so that the ice dragon can find them. Louisa asks if it wouldn't be better to take the Drakon to Carpia, so the kingdom would be safe too. Gabriel asks Louisa if she wants to be like Quiloc, warning that this would leave the kingdom unprotected and in danger. He explains that dragons sense when their kind are in trouble and that what they are doing is to make the hatchling emit a distress signal. Gabriel states that when they meet, the dragons will cause great destruction, as the 2 species cannot stand each other. Saint-Jamel believes that the ice dragon is superior, but Louisa hesitates to trust him. Gabriel defends Saint-Jamel, indicating that he has known him since childhood and trusts his experience. The Draken begins to emit a loud sound, and the youths prepare for the creature's arrival. Meanwhile, Quiloc is furious with his soldiers for losing his only guarantee. He calms down and gives a mission to his most loyal soldier, to kill Gabriel and recover the Draken. The soldier, with no alternatives, accepts the mission. Gabriel decides to place the egg in a lead box to prevent the dragon from sensing any reaction. Louisa questions whether this was not their goal, but Gabriel explains that holding a furious dragon egg while the creature approaches is not safe. They ride to an open field to attract the dragons, who soon arrive and begin a fierce fight. The couple finds themselves in the middle of the combat, and Louisa is thrown from her horse, almost dead. Gabriel quickly dismounts to help her, and the 2 hide in a shelter. Gabriel warns that they need to take a break, as they are too close to danger. During the dragon's fight, Louisa begins to feel attracted to Gabriel, but he says it is time to leave, leaving her disappointed. As they try to return to the kingdom, they are confronted by Quiloc's soldiers. Louisa uses a knife and kills a soldier while trying to escape, and Gabriel prepares to face another, but the enemy decides to retreat upon realizing he is strong. While Louisa is pursued, an arrow shot along with a rope takes down her enemy from his horse. Saint-Jamel appears and helps her, but soon the dragons appear, and Louisa finds herself in the crossfire of the beasts. The terrified horse ends up throwing the young girl to the ground. Saint-Jamel rushes to help her, but discovers that she is only unconscious. More Quiloc soldiers appear to face him, and he quickly knocks down one from his horse and begins to confront another. Saint-Jamel quickly kills the warrior and starts a new fight, managing to neutralize the other, but more and more warriors appear. The man then starts a confrontation against 2 warriors at the same time, but barely manages to win. Gabriel arrives on the scene and runs to check if Louisa is okay. Saint-Jamel informs the young man that they have only 1 horse left, and that he will stay to delay the dragons, as it will be impossible to escape on foot. Gabriel sees himself with no options and ends up going with the princess, while Saint-Jamel stays to distract the dragons. The ice dragon soon appears and goes after the man who meets his end. Meanwhile, in the castle, Paxian is talking to the king, who is worried about his daughter. He tries to convince Augustine again to surrender to King Quiloc, but at that moment, they hear tremors. Augustin runs to see what it is and discovers the fierce battle of the dragons. The ice dragon fiercely attacks the fire dragon while the townspeople hide in shelters. The duo manages to return to the castle, and Louisa informs her father that Paxian is a traitor, but the king refuses to believe it. Gabriel confirms the story and says that the man almost killed Louisa. Then Augustine begins to connect the dots and realizes they are telling the truth. Gabriel wants to deal with the traitor, but the king says he will personally take care of it, while the young man finds a way to deal with the dragons. Augustine soon confronts the traitor, and Paxian says he was already tired of serving a weak king, saying he would do it all over again if possible. He attempts to attack him, but the king manages to defend himself and prepares to kill him when, suddenly, he is stabbed in the back by King Quilok. In the battle between the dragons, the ice monster stands out and quickly manages to finish off the fire dragon, shifting its focus entirely to the egg. Louisa, who did not respect her father's orders, manages to reach it, and when she finally finds it, he is lying on the ground lifeless. She deeply mourns and cries incessantly. Quilok argues with Paxian, calls him useless for losing the Draken, and demands that he kill the young warrior and recover his amulet of protection against dragons, as the previous agreement will count for nothing. Then he calls his guard and sends him along with Paxian to help him recover the Drakon. The Queen and Gabriel talk about how he will stop the dragon. At that moment, Louisa appears with tear-filled eyes and falls into her mother's lap. Thus Rimini discovers what is happening. Gabriel prepares to face the ice dragon, and Louisa wants to go along. They try to stop her, but know it is futile. He says they will have to lure the dragon to the Salt Mountain. The princess questions this plan, but Gabriel asks her to trust him. The two head there, but soon they are stopped by more soldiers and by Paxian, who demands they hand over the Draken. Paxian orders the soldier to have his men kill Gabriel, but the soldier refuses to carry out such a mission. He and his men quickly switch sides, and Paxian is left confused, but decides to flee the battlefield. Then, the knight nicknamed Pontiero says that he served under Alidor's command and mentions that he was a good man, but was wronged by Quilok's evil. Quilok is now with the queen and is trying to convince her to declare that the kingdom of Carpia is now his, and when he is about to assault her, she quickly stabs him and warns that it was for her husband, thus ending the legacy of the Mad King. Gabriel burns the dragon's egg again to attract it and kill it. The dragon soon senses the vibrations and approaches. Gabriel begins to climb the mountain while the dragon watches him, unable to attack him as the young man is holding the egg. The dragon makes its first attack and almost knocks the young man into the abyss, but he manages to hold on and continues climbing. Louisa discovers Gabriel's plan, as that mountain is made of salt, and salt melts ice. And each attack that the creature makes ends up hurting it. And Gabriel knows this, and continues climbing until he reaches the mine's entrance. Gabriel enters the mine with the egg, and lures the creature inside. It quickly flies over and arrives in the mine. The dragon does not want to enter, as it is being affected by the salt, but Gabriel throws the egg inside the mine, causing the creature to descend to try to recover it. Gabriel prepares to use the bomb that his master designed. He quickly throws it down, causing a great explosion and trapping the dragon inside. Louisa is very worried, thinking that the young man has died, but soon he appears at the mine's entrance, and everyone is happy about that. Meanwhile, Paxian ends up getting lost in the Isma forest, being found by the tree men, thus marking his end. After some time, life in Carpia returned to normal, and everyone celebrates Gabriel's victory, who has become the new head of the royal guard. The queen now rules with the same firmness as her husband, and believes that her daughter has finally found a future husband in Gabriel. Thus, the film comes to an end.